The Burton equation is a masterpiece. Alright, let's see this masterpiece.
Hey there, what would you do with a time machine? Check out the future? Perhaps change major events in history? Find out how the pyramids were built? Or maybe prevent yourself from sending that cringy text to what you thought was the love of your life in high school? Not speaking from experience, of course. Who's to say, though, that you can change anything at all? The Burton equation is a Half-Life 2 mod exploring time travel. Simultaneously the most awesome but also most risky element to introduce into any narrative. In this mod, we step into the shoes of a police detective in the 1920s that travels through time to stop the Combine from traveling back in time to invade Earth throughout history, with every time period basically being its own mod with unique weapons and enemies, all telling one big overarching story. So let us dive into reviewing, analyzing, and solving the Burton equation. The first thing to note is how this mod is themed, being that most map switches are accompanied by a small comic. These stock also
that's nice.
Awesome voice acting for the lines.
Seems like I've stirred up the hive. The gang's on full alert. Whatever they did to this Tommy gun, it packs a punch.
This mod gets accused a lot of using AI, so let me immediately point out that this mod used zero AI generated material. All these comics were actually made by a human.
Yeah, like, how can you not... Like, yeah, it looks a bit crisp, but if they properly exported it and everything, it's perfectly fine. If anything, it just looks normal. How the hell is this AI of all things?
My name is Zachary Burton.
Like, I understand, like, a lot of the times nowadays, even when it comes to videos, some videos in AI are, like, quite literally present nowadays, but, like, come on, man, it's obvious this is, like, a unique style and everything. It's not actual AI. Like, people need to start comparing, you know, like, everything as AI. Not everything is AI. People have styles and art directions and everything. Not everything is AI. Like, this really pisses me off because I get it. I genuinely get it. There are some genuine artists that use computer AI to basically do this type of nonsense. But to basically go into it, straight up say it's AI and not even go out of your way to check on the artist, their work, and subsequently how they made it, because chances are they are definitely going to have a footprint on their work and pretty much show it inexplicably without any issues. But to basically still call it AI is just no. Check the artist, check what they're doing, and then when you're certain, when they don't have a footprint or everything, sketches, whatnot, because artists genuinely do this type of stuff on occasion, then you can call it AI, because, or at the very least say AI adjacent, somewhat. Just do that, please.
We are situated in the middle of Chicago in the mid-1920s. The streets are run by the Metro Gang, who, thanks to their leader Fabricio Struzzi, sounds familiar, never get
construction
because he's got dirt on everyone. A mysterious woman walks into Burton's office though and asks him to take care of the issue. And for some reason, this motivated Zach to do just that. The simple idea to have
bad bitch tells me to do
black and white
something
is so fun. The music also helps solidify the 1920s feel.
Whoa, 150 health? That's a bit too much for a detective,
this part is very enjoyable, giving you a good noir vibe. And also, the idea of slapping Metro Cop masks on regular mobsters is so hilariously good. Love how he knows it is with the name Metro Gang as well. To the gameplay though, this is definitely not your usual Half-Life 2 style of gameplay. It's a lot more like Doom or just arcade shooters in general. You basically never stop run and gunning, which definitely isn't a thing for everyone, but personally, I really enjoyed it, which I wouldn't have expected.
It's simple, that's simple.
I even thought that the moments where you did have to solve the few puzzles this mod throws at you were the worst part of this mod. Essentially just slowing you down in your aim to use these cool new weapons against the cool new enemies. Perhaps I'm also just too dumb for puzzles. Speaking of weapons, in this time period they are super fun to use, consisting of your fists and a kick you can use at all times, which is fun, a shitty little magnum, the M1911 pistol, and my personal favorite,
1911.
It shreds through enemies like no other. In terms of story, the only thing we got going is that we're tracking down Fabrine through the streets of Chicago. The level design is solid, and exploring all the alleyways you may come across one of these things. Just in case you needed something to solidify the idea that this is an arcade shooter, these are boosts, consisting of buffs like double damage,
full
250 HP, and
250
Somewhat of a wasted
HP?
opportunity.
That
if you
is
ask me.
ridiculous.
I would
Then
have
again,
loved
you
some
aren't
2
using
times
any
running
suits,
speed or being
so
able to see enemies through walls.
maybe
It's
having
still a
health
fine
is
mechanic,
better
though.
than
Eventually, we
nothing.
come across the very final weapon, the modified Tommy gun, which is able to shoot energy balls, which foreshadows the idea that the Metro Gang are actually the Combine sending units back in time to anyone playing this mod blind. Blind in every sense of the word. I mean, did you not see their masks? We relatively quickly make it to the first boss fight, fighting Fabrine in his own warehouse. Fabrine looks like any other Metro Gang member with an added helmet of sorts. He taunts you while you fight him, making him very cartoony, but thus also very memorable. Just when you think you might beat him, he activates his time travel device and flees the situation in all 4 dimensions. A fun detail being that you get to hear the radio speaking on the situation, mentioning that someone saw a gun shooting a ball as bright as the sun, referencing the modified Tommy gun, and also mentioning us by name directly. We return to our office, the Metro Gang now right behind us. Just as Zachary Burton believes he's about to die, he finds a letter from the mysterious woman, one that consists of a bunch of gibberish in the comics, but seems to hold some value to Zach. A white flash then appears and transports us from noir to sepia. He'd fought in one great war before and now it's
Sepia.
time for another.
I get it,
World
though.
War II. In this chapter, it is
Really
revealed
can't
that
show this
no
image.
Nazis exist as we know them here. It is the Combine forces instead, with
Stupid
Fabrine as their leader.
censorships
This
for no
does mean
reason.
we're basically fighting Hitler. The arsenal this time consists of the shitty Magnum, a Luger pistol, and the MP40 machine gun, topped off by a Combine Panzerschreck we received later on. In terms of gameplay, there isn't
Combine
much change. The enemies are now in
Panzerschreck. That
German
is a
soldier uniforms with
sentence.
the Metrocop mask added, but function the same as before. One super fun detail being that for this section, the Metrocop and Combine sounds are replaced with the German dubbed version. Yes, Half-Life 2 was dubbed into German, alongside a few other languages.
Using the languages to your advantage. That's good. That's good.
A minor detail that makes this a lot more awesome. The level design here is at its peak if you ask me. The trenches are insanely well designed and the skybox is pure eye candy. Probably don't let your grandpa play this though. Notably, there's also a huge Combine tower in the distance. Something not very fitting to this time, meaning that this is definitely a place of interest. Hunters and claw scanners have arrived from the future as well. Claw scanners drop mines into the trenches, which is fun.
Why exactly are people so, like, entranced with using the Hunter? I get it, it's basically like a mini Strider, but still, the amount of times people have used this thing is just too much at this point. Like, use the regular soldiers or the elites, or, I don't know, a cremator would make more sense, actually. It has a flamethrower and whatnot. Why always jump to the Hunter? I get it, it's an easy enemy to implement and whatnot, but still, stop using the Hunter, for real. Just anything but the Hunter. Anything but the Strider as well. Just anything that just doesn't have to be so overused. Please.
The soundtrack here is absolutely perfect as well, and as the music ramps up, so does the difficulty. While the noir levels were fairly open in that you were always able to hide around corners and in alleyways, the majority of the trenches are just that, a long trench. So nothing to hide behind really. And if you ever find yourself in a dead
it's
end
still a
with a hunter
trench.
behind you, that's GG. The eventual goal is to destroy the Combine machine used for time travel, I guess? The question becomes, if this machine allowed them to travel back in time, how did the Combine bring this machine here in the first place? Did the
I don't
Combine
know.
invade before already? If that's the case, were there ever Nazis
Chances
in
are
Half-Life
that-
lore? Or has it always been Fabrine and his Metro Cs? I'm going on a
Metro
Solving
Cs.
time travel story is impossible if not given all the answers, which this mod definitely doesn't give us. To its own benefit, probably. We managed to blow up the contraption in this huge boss fight. We are revealed that this stopped the Combine from being able to travel back to the 1940s. That's good, I guess? But a day ago, the tower still stood. So couldn't the Combine just travel back there? Okay, I'll stop. The washed out colors get swapped out for almost literal rose-tinted glasses as we travel to Miami. Fabrine is now a successful CEO and owner of the Fabrine Corp building. The Combine now take on the form of a syndicate. Thugs wearing a Combine helmet, as we're used to by now. Looks-wise, I love Miami. The colorful sports cars, palm trees and glowing buildings. Man-hacks are the new thing from the future that now start appearing as well. The music is
That
super
would
cool
make
as well.
sense, yeah.
Sadly, every single Miami soundtrack from this mod
Easy.
got a copyright complaint, so I just replaced it with the GTA Vice City soundtrack. Trust me, that
That's
is good.
kinda
Here's
sucks.
3 seconds of it.
Stop.
Okay, that should be fine. The overall gameplay of Miami
Didn't
is,
even
I mean,
expect him
it's
to say
mostly
it.
still the same. You run and gun, this time with a Glock 17, a Mag 10, and a secret shotgun you can find, all of which are very fun to use. And this chapter certainly provides you with enough enemies to use them.
Over his back,
is,
of course.
while the other levels had some variation to them and passed by rather quickly, this chapter drags on the longest, and 80% of it is spent scaling up the copy-pasted floors of the Fabrine Corp building. It really starts to blend together and get very boring after the 10th floor or whatever. It's not like the creator didn't try and innovate sometimes. You do get some unique mechanics every few floors, but it's simply not enough. My suggestion would be to genuinely cut somewhere between a quarter and half of the floors here, specifically the generic unmodified ones, and have the player take an elevator to the top afterwards instead. Once
Just
we do
way
arrive
too
at the
late.
top, after tons of belittling from Fabrine, we now
the
fight against him in his
helicopter
helicopter.
fight.
This boss fight is pretty much a generic helicopter boss fight, which isn't to say that it's bad. What I most enjoyed is that the custom Stinger rocket launcher we got to use has some awesome looking explosion effects. Realistic? No. But it's exactly what you want out of a cinematic concept chapter like one based on Miami, as it's known from movies. And as you may expect, we do defeat Fabrine here, and his helicopter crashes down, certainly putting an end to his reign across time. Right? The building is now also on fire. I can hear what you're thinking. We now have to fight our way down. This was perhaps my favorite part of the Miami section. One that I wish was focused on a lot more. Cutting half the levels on the way up would have been a perfect opportunity to increase the time spent on these burning floors, allowing for a lot more creative scenarios and a lot more interesting combat.
Yeah, but there's
perhaps
more
even
tension
introduce
now.
gas mask power-ups to collect periodically, and if you fail to collect them, you slowly die from smoke poisoning. With some small changes implemented, Miami might have just been my favorite chapter. Right now, it probably sits at the bottom. We do have one final chapter to get to though. As we leave the Fabrine Corp building and time flashes once more, Zack feels regret going on this adventure. He thought of his family. His mother he didn't visit enough, a father he judged too harshly. He may never see them again, but now, this fight was for them, all of the people of all these times. Now it was time to solve this equation and end the fight. In this chapter, Zachary Burton meets his Terminus. Damn, that sounds badass. Terminus places us in time somewhere around Half-Life 2, right in City 17. At least presumably, since we can see a citadel, which in case you didn't know, it's hinted at in Half-Life lore that there are multiple across the planet.
What?
The arsenal this time
No. Oh my god, do I have to go into Half-Life lore again? It is if there were multiple citadels, Episode 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Episode 2 would not exist. The whole point of the Citadel being in City 17 is not only that it's a main hub for the entire world, but it's literally a direct link to the Combine homeworld. There is no way for there to be multiple citadels across planet Earth. That is something I will continue to have as a pet peeve across the entirety of the game franchise. Like, I am sick and tired of people just constantly saying there's multiple citadels. There's one in City 17, and it was destroyed, then turning into a major plot point for why the Combine wanted to open a portal to go to call for reinforcements. That's the main reason for why that thing happened. If there were multiple citadels, not only would they not focus in episode 1 to destroy it with all the data it had, but they wouldn't go out of their way to make the super portal to call for reinforcements. They would have literally done none of this, and it wouldn't have been celebrated as the major victory that it was on the Combine. That was the main reason for why that citadel destroyed was such a big, important landscape in the Half-Life 2, in the Half-Life lore in general. And the fact that you're saying that everyone is saying that there are multiple is just not only false, but absolutely and unequivocally untrue. It's one singular citadel. Because if there were multiple, the entirety of Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Half-Life 2 Episode 2 fall on their ass. And they would not be considered not only canon, but completely and unequivocally unnecessary to the story. But they happened because the Citadel got destroyed, and the Super Portal was opened for the reason that the Combine wanted to send reinforcements. The fact that everyone keeps stating that there are multiple Citadels is just false. It's one singular Citadel. Get it right.
consists mostly of Half-Life 2 beta weapons, perhaps implying this takes place earlier than Half-Life 2. What I mean by that is, it could be a fun idea to assume that most of the concepts, enemies and events that were seen in the Half-Life 2 beta actually happened in Half-Life lore closely after Half-Life 1. Remember that there is a 20-year time gap between Half-Life 1 and 2, and a 15-year one between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life Alyx. So perhaps most of the Half-Life 2 beta took place in some form only a few years after Half-Life 1. Another potential hint at this otherwise admittedly unsupported theory is that there was gonna be at least one cremator in Half-Life Alyx, though it was sadly cut. So what I'm saying is that
thing is never gonna get implemented no matter how hard we try.
Resonance Cascade. Though, to be fair, the mod creator likely didn't think about this too much and simply wanted to include the OICW and beta-styled MP7, which is more likely given that we see a finished Citadel unlike the way we see it in Half-Life Alyx. As mentioned, the weapons consist of the 357 as per usual, the OICW, the shotgun, grenades, beta MP7, and a crossbow, all of which are pretty fun to use. Really no complaints weapons-wise. This chapter also somewhat takes a break from the run-and-gun shooting, feeling just like most other Half-Life mods, minus the focus on puzzles. The level design is really solid. There is no theme here outside of regular Half-Life 2. The soundtrack mostly consists of remix Half-Life soundtracks, and they actually sound really good. A big chunk of this chapter takes place in the canals, which are most similar to what we are used to from previous chapters, run and gunning through various hallways. Once we leave them again, we are clearly presented our goal, a huge Combine facility, the one we will come to find to be the main time travel headquarters for the Combine. Before this, we receive the RPG and have a big boss fight against a bunch of Striders that is very similar to the one seen in Anti-Citizen 1 of Half-Life 2. It's fine overall, just that there is very little cover. Although there is no chapter split here, everything inside the facility is basically like an entirely new chapter. So just to recap, the Terminus chapter up to this point is solid. Unlike the Miami one, I have basically no complaints here. This was fun. As we first enter the Time Travel HQ, we hear a familiar voice.
If it isn't Detective Burton again.
Yeah, somehow Fabrine returned. Everything inside here is basically a huge final boss fight, one that makes for the most perfect ending you could wish for in this mod. We fight against Combine to open time portals, portals that lead us back to all the places we were at previously. The first one takes us back to 1920s Chicago, granting us the weapons of that time and having us fight through a few corridors before returning again. We then run through this room. That seems to just be a straight copy-paste from episode 1. Seriously, I thought this was supposed to be a reference at first, but nope. Just straight up one-to-one copy for the most part. Like, I get referencing Valve stuff and even copying things like Logic. But just stealing a whole room's architecture with no intentions of implying it to be the same room is a bit much if you ask me. It's not
what is it used for?
Just kinda off.
Seriously.
The next portal we enter is one to World War II. We run through a few of the same trenches and fight against the Metro soldiers one more time. I also wish this part would have made some unique environments like I believe they made in the Noir level. Still fun though. We also enter Miami one more time, which does seem to be an original level. It's also the shortest though. It's just one street before you head into an alley and go back. We are about to enter the final portal that will take us to the very final boss fight against Fabrine. Before that, I want to ask though, how do these time portals exist? I know I promised I would stop, but didn't we destroy all those Combine stations in the past so they no longer have access?
It's kind of like, for example, how Terminator series continues trucking through. It's like, how do you keep on time traveling to destroy Skynet or make Skynet? It's like just settle on it already. Jeez.
Did they travel back a day before destruction, just as I mentioned? If so, do we have to travel back to every Planck second at once and destroy them all in every time period for them to be unable to travel back? And if we were to do that, did anything in the past ever happen? Is the past solidified?
You're focusing way too much on this, my guy.
Timelines? Is it back to the future logic? Or is it whatever happened? How are we to... Okay. Though I must admit this is a weird plot.
Drop it.
I really doubt anyone besides me actually cares. And I can also admit that I don't really care that much because...
I mean, it's not that I don't care. It really does seem like a very interesting plot. But A, the Combine literally have like infinite resources as far as I can say, due to conquering infinite worlds allegedly. And the other one is just, timey-wimey, splickety-lickety stuff. And it's kind of very complex to go into it, so it's just a whole can of worms that doesn't need to be opened. So just truck through it.
Because this is really all I wanted out of this finale. Even though this mod is no more than 3 hours long, it was almost nostalgic to revisit these areas. And hey, I dare anyone to write a time travel story with no plot holes. So, the Fabrine boss fight. Fabrine reveals he has been put together again, stitched and cyborged out of dozens of pieces of his remains in the helicopter crash and burning tower. His model here looks really cool. It seems that this room is the one holding open the time dimension for the Combine to use, or something. It's not really explained. As we shoot at Fabry, the
Those
room
towers.
transforms into the places we've seen before. The boss fight itself is rather easy. It's split up into stages that are all basically the same, only aesthetics change. Almost like the chapters of this mod, huh? As we defeat him, there's one final conversation between the two. Zack tells Fabrine that they could have fought alongside each other, solved a whole lot of messes. Their experience in the Great War being a bond between them. Fabrine says it's in its nature to be evil, that he couldn't have been better, but we were. Fabrine then says that them being history is for the best, that he should have died in that war. And Zack seems to think the same about himself. Zack then pushes a big red button that is obviously there to self-destruct the place. Why others have a big red button? I mean, come on.
The Doofenshmirtz logic. We gotta have a self-destruct button. Just for some reason is wired to everything. For some reason.
Zack then says his final words.
Well, end of the line. Everything led to this. For me to die doing what's right. I always knew this line of work would kill me. Sooner or later. This might be the terminus of my story. Might be the end of the world, too. But in my gut, it was worth it. Yeah. My God, it was worth it.
The equation is solved. The core turned incomprehensible colors above him before collapsing in on itself. And just as soon as Zack had seen this dark future, he was snatched from it. Questions were left unanswered. How did humanity come to be this way? Would their struggle end in victory? Zachary would never know. He would only hope that humanity's episode was yet concluded. White engulfed him. For just a brief moment, he saw all of the times the Combine had invaded. The periods he had fought through were but a fraction of the operations, and he was not the first to be chosen. He saw other nameless men and women across dozens of times, fighting incursions into their own, then others. But he had been the first to succeed, to make it to the center of it all, and solve the paradox once and for all. He was ready to face death. He wasn't asking for another chance. But sometimes, the universe deals you a royal flush. And this is where we get a post-credit scene where we awake in our office with the mysterious woman standing in front of us. This can hint at a plethora of things. Since we don't speak with her, we don't know if this is possibly a time loop ending, where we are now right at where the first comic started. We may have been transported back to where we left in time, with the mysterious woman granting us the wish of being able to see our parents again and solve the regrets we have. In the ending, you can find credits for a G-Woman, which refers to the mysterious woman, likely meaning that she is an entity similar to the G-Man in many ways. Perhaps she's the entity that solved the time travel equation using different candidates, like Zachary Burton and the many others he saw flashes of while the core exploded. So perhaps she has another contract for us. After all, the fact that Burton survived does hint at a possibility of a sequel. I would love to travel to more times, maybe further into the past, Middle Ages, ancient Egypt, fight Julius Caesar, who just so happens to also be Fabrine. I love time travel when it's done right, and it being used to explore different time periods in an arcade shooter and telling a bit of a story is super fun. Of course, a sequel would undermine any success of the first part story-wise, but I always take gameplay over a logical story. I mean, thankfully this is just a fun spin-off, not meant to take place in Half-Life lore, and Half-Life would never dare introduce time travel as a, oh.
Yeah, meanwhile, Half-Life Alyx, behold, time travel. Our boy Eli is alive, which, honestly, I'm kind of glad that happened. I'm not complaining. Eli is one of my favorite characters, and the fact that he gets to live again is perhaps my biggest plus when it comes to Half-Life Alyx. But at the exact same time, we got returned to that critical ending in episode 2 15 years ago, was it? Yeah, 15 years ago. And all we got was basically just... wait for Half-Life 3, I guess. It's like, congratulations, we reset the original ending just to basically end on it once again.
I don't believe the Burton equation will be everyone's cup of tea. But if you are a fan of games like Doom or just general shoot-em-ups, perhaps even something like Payday's combat mechanics, you can enjoy this mod. Just don't go in expecting a run-of-the-mill Half-Life 2 mod, because it surely is something else. Something I very much enjoyed. Even
the
with
real ranking, by the way.
My biggest gripe that I have not yet fully mentioned being that there really was very little innovation in terms of gameplay across the time periods. A gas mask mechanic on the way down the burning tower, or perhaps even a vehicle section in one of the chapters, could have changed things greatly. Something to make the chapter stand out in other ways than aesthetics. Perhaps that's something a sequel could consider. And in nature of this mod, let me time travel forward to skip me telling you to subscribe and instead go right to the member shoutouts. I'll see you there, thank you for watching!